Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. I hope you're here to stay. If you're an old subscriber, thank you so much for the ongoing and continued support, even throughout all of my inconsistencies, because I really have been inconsistent. Guys, when I started YouTube, so I started YouTube a few months ago now, and when I started, I said I was going to be putting out a video every single week.
Bruh, it was actually it.
You know what? Like, it's okay to laugh at yourself sometimes, because as people, we do a lot of this. We do a lot of talking, and you know, it's honestly with the best intentions, but sometimes life just doesn't consider your intentions. So as much as I enjoy being creative and editing and things like that, it is really time consuming, and I am a wife, I am a mum, I'm a working mum, I have so much going on. But honestly guys, no excuses. I really do want to be consistent, because I understand that it's hard to keep up with what somebody's doing if they're not consistent in it. But even when I haven't been vlogging, people come up to me and say, Samira, when's the next vlog out? I get messages, I get people pushing me and saying, Samira, come on, you need to put out your videos. So you know who you are. Shout outs to you. Like, in the world of YouTube, I don't have a lot of subscribers. I have 300 and something subscribers, and you know, some people get 100,000 subscribers, some people get 50,000 views. I don't get thousands and thousands of views, but I honestly really do appreciate you guys, because when I think about it, that is 300 people that have clicked a button to say,
Samira, we like what you're doing, we support you, we want to see more from you.
And seriously guys, I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. I honestly do appreciate it. But you know, obviously with anything you do, let's keep it real. Like, you want to see growth, you want to see progression. So if you're not subscribed, please do make sure you subscribe, check out my other videos, and yeah, tell a friend to tell a friend, spread the word, and let's support each other. So disclaimer before I start today's video. Today's video is going to be a very
chatty video, so excuse me if I waffle a little bit, but I guess it's kind of allowed because it is a story time.
When you look at the majority of my vlogs, the majority of my videos are lifestyle vlogs, and they're mostly to do with family, because I am a very family orientated person. If you follow me on Snapchat, I'll put my Snapchat name right here. Yeah, like if you follow me on Snapchat, you will see that I'm always with my family. I'm always with my siblings, my mum and dad, my husband, my kids, my in-laws, because I am just that girl. Like, I love being with family. But I do understand that it's hard to get to know somebody through a screen as it is, but it's even harder to get to know me if I'm constantly behind the camera, and even when I'm in front of the camera, I am vlogging and not really talking to you guys. So I definitely am going to do a lot more sit down conversation type videos, but it's kind of been, if I'm honest, it's kind of been daunting to get up here and talk, because like I said, even though I don't have a massive platform, I definitely do have people watch my vlogs, and so I'm never just gonna come up here and just start talking because I have a platform to do so. But I have, you know, I do think it's time to kind of open up a little bit and talk to you guys properly. You know, that was my intention when I started this channel, and I haven't given enough of myself, I think. But I'm back and I'm going straight in, I'm diving head first, and to be honest, what I'm going to be talking about today is very personal, and it's not really the sort of thing you talk about on camera, but that's why I wanted to talk about it. So I'm just going to jump straight into today's video, and I hope you enjoy it. So last month was the month of March, and we celebrated Mother's Day and we celebrated International Women's Day, and that just kind of got me thinking about motherhood in general, and how much of an amazing thing it is to be able to be a mum to these two little human beings that are growing ever so quickly, and specifically my journey to motherhood. And so that's what today's video is about. I really wanted to share my experience, because My journey to motherhood was a very hard, long and painful journey. It was one of the hardest times of my life, and that's kind of why I want to talk about it, because I know that there's a lot of women out there that have been through or are currently going through very similar things to what I went through. And so that's why I wanted to share it, because you know, when I was going through certain things, I just felt so alone, and I just remember feeling like it was only me that was experiencing what I was experiencing. And so I really do want to reach out to mums out there who have been through something similar, or if you're not a mum yet and you're currently going through your journey to motherhood. I honestly hope that you get a lot from this video. As you would have heard in other videos, if you've watched my previous videos, my husband and I have been married for 8 years, and we got married very young. We got married when I was 18 and he was 19, and because we got married so young, we straight away said when we got married that we weren't going to have kids for a number of years, and we were very intentional about that because we wanted to enjoy our married life. And so we said 5 years. And so around the 3-year mark, we got the 3-year itch, and that's what they call it. And basically my husband put it to me and said, babe, look, I think we should have a baby. And you know, at first I was kind of opposed to the idea, because I was like, no, let's stick to our plan. We said 5 years. Why are we going to change things now? And so after that, it's almost like he had planted a seed, and as much as at first I was trying to fight it, I couldn't stop thinking about it from the moment he said it. And you know, like with anything in life, you know, when you want something, it's almost like your mind starts playing games with you. And so literally it felt like everywhere I would go, I would see a baby or someone would be pregnant. And so we started trying for a baby. We had only been married for 3 years. Initially, I just, you know, obviously I was aware of the fact that some women struggle to get pregnant, and I was aware of the fact that, you know, it's not always easy. Some people, you know, stop taking contraception and get pregnant a week later. Some people try for 10 years and have no luck. And so I knew it could be anything in between. And I was never naive to that fact, but obviously when it's your turn, you just assume that things are going to be fine. I'm young, I'm healthy, why wouldn't I be able to get pregnant straight away? And so we started trying, like I said, and I just wasn't getting pregnant. And I went to the GP, I had a checkup, and they said, Samira, you're fine, you're healthy, there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to make sure you're eating the right things, you're being healthy, you're staying active, and you know, make sure you check your cycle, know when you're ovulating, know your body, and it will happen. And so I just took on all that advice, and I started taking folic acid. I was doing everything that you know, that the books say you should do to get pregnant. And so I was doing all of that, and I was not getting pregnant. And so that initial I want a baby turned into, I can't really call it an obsession. Yeah, it kind of was an obsession. Like it was all I thought about. It was a longing. Like I longed to have a baby. And you know, as a Christian, like, you know, with anything in life, when you are going through something and you're having a hard time, you turn to God. And so I remember just, you know, praying and thinking like, God, I know it's you that's given me this desire. I know it's a God-given desire to bear children. It says it in the Bible. I know you're also the only one that can make this happen. And so why is it not happening? I didn't get it. And you know, I just kept telling myself there must be a reason, it's gonna happen, just keep trying. And so some time went on. I think it was about 1.5 years of us trying, and I can't tell you how many pregnancy tests I did in that time. And anybody that's trying for a baby will know how depressing it is when you keep seeing negative, and I got so desperate that, this is gonna sound a little crazy, but I got so desperate and I had such a fear that I may not be able to get pregnant that I was almost okay. I almost wanted to get pregnant, even if I had a miscarriage. I didn't mind, just so that I could tell myself that, Samira, you can have children, you're able to get pregnant. November 2012, I found out, I did a pregnancy test and I found out I was pregnant. And like, I can't even tell you the joy, like from seeing negative to finally seeing positive. I was literally over the moon. And obviously just before that, in the time period that I had been trying, you know, because I had been married for a while, I remember people constantly coming up to me saying, Samira, when are you and Morgan going to try for a baby? When are you going to get pregnant? Come on, you're getting older. And I was only 21, but I felt this immense pressure because, you know, as women, that is what women do. Like, obviously that's not all we do, but you are expected to have babies. And so I felt this sense of pressure from other people. As much as I wanted it for myself, I really felt like I had to do it just to silence all the questions that I was getting. And so when I finally got pregnant, oh my goodness, I was so overjoyed. And so I remember I did the test and I told Morgan, and we were so excited. Our dreams had finally been answered. So we told our family members, we told a few of our close friends, and even their reactions even gave us that much more excitement. Everyone was so happy for us, and they were like, finally. And everyone that knew that we were trying, you know, just knew how happy of a time it was for us. When I found out, I went to GP, did my normal routine checks, they confirmed my pregnancy, and yeah, I downloaded the pregnancy app. I started checking week by week how big the baby was, and you know, you start thinking so far ahead, like, what's the baby's name gonna be, the first school, the first this, the first that. And you know, those first few weeks, as much as they're so amazing, like, you know, that's the first time you're experiencing this new thing, creating a life, it's also very scary because, you know, they make sure they say to you, the doctors, they say to you that, you know, you shouldn't really tell people because before your 3 months, that's when you're most prone to miscarriage. So take it easy, don't eat certain things. And so I made sure I did all of those things. I listened to them. I started eating healthy. I started eating salads. Salads. Like, if you know me, you will know how much I like to chop food. And I just cut all of that out. I was eating salads. I was eating healthy. I was taking my vitamins and I was doing everything right. And then one day, I started to, I don't want to go into too much detail because I know that I'm mindful that there's guys that watch my videos too. I started to not feel very well and my body was showing me things basically. And so I went to Morgan and told Morgan, I said, babe, there's something wrong. We need to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital and they said, you need to take a pregnancy test so that we can confirm that you are actually still pregnant. And so I took a pregnancy test and hooray, I was still pregnant, thank God. And so I remember just saying, oh, thank God, this is amazing. But then they said to me, you know, come back in the morning because although the test is positive, we still want to check that everything is fine. And so we went back in the morning, and if you've ever been to an early pregnancy unit, oh my gosh, those places are one of the worst places ever. And so we were sitting there in the waiting area and waiting for our names to be called, and it was just so horrible, that feeling of not having any control over what is about to happen. And so anyway, I'll try and keep this short. We went into the room and I remember I laid on the bed. This is the first time, I've always dreamed of this moment where I get to have a scan, and although it wasn't my official scan, it was an amazing moment. I couldn't wait. I was so excited. And you know, as much as being excited, I was very scared because I had the faith that everything was going to be fine. But obviously, as human beings, you always have that voice in the back of your head, that niggling voice that you know, is speaking negatively. And so I just remember laying there, they put the gel on my stomach and they started scanning, and Morgan was right beside me, and it was just very silent in the room. And so, you know, before they started the scan, they had asked me a number of questions of, you know, my history of pregnancies and this and that, and you know, I had never been pregnant before. This was my first time. Do I smoke? Do I this? Do I that? And it was just all seemed very long-winded. So when they finally, you know, put the monitor on my belly, I was just waiting for what they were gonna say. And so he was just scanning, and I looked up to the screen and I was like, "Doctor, is everything okay? Is everything okay?" And he was kind of just silent. And then he looked at me and he said, "So Samira, as you can see, this is your womb, this is your uterus, this is your sac, this is the sac, the amniotic sac, this is what the baby sits in, this is what the baby grows in. So yes, you are pregnant, everything is intact with your sac. However, there's nothing in there." And I was like, "What do you mean there's nothing in there?" And, you know, he was just like, "You are pregnant, conception did take place, but unfortunately, there's no embryo in there. There's no embryo in there. There's no embryo in there." And I just remember, it's almost like I went out of the room, like my body was there, but my mind was not there. I was just thinking 1,000,001 different things, and in that moment I just remember thinking, like, my body has lied to me. Like, I just felt so deceived by my own body. And I remember just, like, I broke down, I was crying, I was a wreck, I was just hysterical. And I remember Morgan, you know, it was so sad because he was trying to be really strong for me, but I could see in himself that he himself was broken. And, you know, I got up and I got changed, and then they started explaining to me that, you know, Samira, you know, this is very common, and this and that and this and that. And it's like everything they were saying, everything was just a blur after that moment, because all I kept thinking is, there's no baby. I've waited 11 weeks. My scan was round the corner, and I'm not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna get to meet this baby that I've bonded with. And I know it sounds a little crazy, but honestly, no matter how long you're pregnant for, when you find out you're pregnant, you bond with that child straight away. And, you know, like I said, I had downloaded the app and I was checking how far along I was and how big the baby was at this week, and it was just heartbreaking. It was honestly heartbreaking to be told that I'm going to miscarry. And I think it would have been easier to bear if they said you have already miscarried, but it wasn't that. It was the sac needs to come out, it's gonna break down, and so you're going to miscarry. We went home and, you know, like the doctor said, I miscarried, and I won't go into too much detail, but, you know, I'm sure you can imagine it is horrible. And when you have a miscarriage, I wouldn't say it's as painful as labor, but it is definitely up there in the category of, you know, labor. It is very, very painful because your body is still, your muscles are still contracting to get whatever's there out. And obviously, you know, after the miscarriage, we told our friends and family, and they were gutted. And, you know, their reactions, like, obviously you are the one that is going through it, but their reactions made me even more sad. And, you know, I just felt like I had let everybody down, even though that wasn't really my burden to bear. I felt like I had let people down. I had told them about something that they were excited for, and I didn't deliver it. And so fast forward, that was November 2012. We kept trying, we left it for a while, and then we started trying again, and I got pregnant again. I got pregnant, and I found out I was pregnant in April 2013. And so, you know, excitement yet again, but because I had had a miscarriage, I had this immense fear that I was gonna have another miscarriage. And so I started to fight that, you know, every day was like a constant battle. And again, I was taking my folic acid, I was being very careful of what I was eating, I was reading up on pregnancy and what you can do to avoid miscarriages, and, you know, all of these things were just consuming my mind. And when I was 8 weeks pregnant, the same thing started to happen again. And I was just like, there's no way I can be having another miscarriage. So again, the same horrible cycle. And it's almost like, it felt like a deja vu. It felt like I was replaying what had just happened. So same hospital, same waiting area, same process. They call you up, you go in, you lay on the bed, waiting anxiously. And, you know, this time I was 8 weeks pregnant, and so I still have 3 weeks to go until my official scan. But again, they can see if things look normal very early. And so again, we were sat down waiting, looked at the monitor, and they said, there's a heartbeat. And oh my gosh, that feeling. They said there was a heartbeat, and I saw the heartbeat. And so on the screen, I could see this flicker. And it's kind of hard to see, to work out what's what when the baby's that young. But I could see a flicker, and they pointed it out to me and said, look, Samira, that is your baby's heartbeat. But unfortunately, the baby's heart rate is very, very slow. And so I'm going to call in a senior doctor. So a senior doctor came in, did another scan, and I remember in that moment just thinking, you know what, okay, things are obviously not looking good. They've had to call in for a second opinion. However, there's a heartbeat, and so it's better than last time. There is actually a heartbeat. Something can happen here. And so I did a scan, and they turned around and said to me, look, this is your baby's heartbeat, but like the doctor said, the baby's heartbeat is very, very abnormal. The heart is beating much slower than it should. And so there's two things that are going to happen. Either you're going to go home and you're going to miscarry, or if you come back in a week, we're going to do another scan, and, you know, miraculously and start to beat normally and be at a normal pace. But she was basically saying, look, prepare yourself for the worst. And again, as a Christian, you're like, you've got so much fight, you're fighting for your faith. And in my head, I was just like, no, I'm going to go home, everything's going to be fine, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to prove to you guys that you guys were wrong. And so we went home. I told a few people, not very many. And, you know, that was a week where I was just praying. And so on May the 8th, 2013, I went back into hospital, and that was the day that they were going to confirm whether I had miscarried or not. And so I went back in, they did the scan, and they confirmed and said, Samira, I'm afraid you have miscarried. And I just remember feeling so, I felt like a failure. And I just felt like, obviously it's the man and the woman together that get pregnant. You can't do it on your own. But I just remember looking at Morgan and just feeling like, poor guy, like he wants this baby so badly, and I'm not able to give it to him. And will I ever be able to give it to him? And I just remember beating myself up, and I just felt like yet again I had let down my friends and family. I had everyone that was excited for me, I had let them down again. And mentally I I went through such mind battles, and I was blaming myself, and I had this immense guilt, like, Samira, it's your fault, it's something that you've done wrong. Maybe, you know, you ate something that was wrong, you know, you maybe you didn't drink enough water, maybe you were too stressed, and because of that, that's what caused a second miscarriage. And I was just so low, and I couldn't really speak to anybody because I just felt like nobody understood what I was going through. And God being so good, I literally got myself together, and in that same day, within about half an hour, so I left King's College Hospital and I got the bus and I went to St Thomas Hospital, May the 8th 2013, and I watched my nephew Gianni I watched my nephew be born, and on that same exact day, and it was just so emotional, and it was such an amazing thing to go through at that time, feeling how I felt. And like, me and my sister are really, really close. Just being able to watch new life come into the world, and you know, see life after I felt like I had just seen death. It was just honestly the most amazing experience, and she did so well. Like, Nad, you were amazing. I've told you so many times, but she had a really hard labor, and she pushed and pushed and pushed. And when he came out, we were all weeping, like we were in tears. And my brother, one of my brothers, if you remember, like, he was actually on the phone, and we were all crying, and it was just such a beautiful moment. And I really do believe that God did that for a reason, and he did that to give me a hope for myself, and he did that to reassure me that it could happen for me as well. And I was just so honored. I felt like it wasn't coincidental. You know, God does everything for a reason. And so I wanted to share that, and I'm sure this video is very, very long. Fast forward to a few months later anyway, I just, again, you know, we stopped trying for a while, and then we started trying again. And I remember one day I just went home, and a few of my friends started getting pregnant, and I just went home one day, closed the door, and I just broke down, and I wept, and I was crying. I was worshipping God, but I was crying. I had my hands raised, I had my head bowed, and I just gave God everything. I gave him my worries, I gave him my fears, I gave him my desire. And I said, look, God, you have given me this desire. You created me. You know why it hasn't happened. You know why I just went through 2 miscarriages. I'm giving it to you. And I truly, that day, I gave it to God. And I stopped worrying. I stopped thinking, oh my gosh, Samira, you might not ever be able to get pregnant. I just stopped all of that. I gave it to God. You know what? I'm leaving it to you. You know when it's going to happen. And there's nothing that I can do. We went on a a trip to Bermuda. One of my really close friends, she's back there now. She lives there now. Brit, shout out Brit, love you. She took us on we went on 6 of us, 3 couples. We went to visit her home, and we had a great time. When I came back from Bermuda, I found out I was pregnant, and I was pregnant with Aiden. My beautiful firstborn son, Aiden. I was pregnant with him, and obviously I didn't know at the time that it was going to be it was actually going to come to fruition this time. But I remember when I got pregnant, I found out I was pregnant, I just said to myself, look, there is no way I'm having a 3rd miscarriage. I spoke it. I said, that's not happening. That is not my portion. I rebuke it. And you know, throughout that pregnancy, I did have times where I was still scared, and I think having miscarriages, I will always be scared now. But I also had a very strong belief that everything was going to be fine, and that really kept me. And you know what, funnily enough, this time, the time that it actually came to pass, I didn't care about eating healthily. To be honest, no, I ate a lot of junk. You know, I succumbed to all my cravings. But it just goes to show that it's not you, it's not the baby is not, does not come and is not built upon what you do. It's literally God that creates the life, gives you the life, and you are just the vessel that carries it. And so I shared all that to say, like, you may look at me and you will never know that about me, and that's with everyone you see. You never know what certain people have gone through. So just be mindful when you're going up to women and say, oh, when are you having your next baby? Oh, why are you not pregnant yet? Time is ticking. All of these sort of things, and I'm guilty of it. I've said them sort of things so many times to women, but you never actually know what someone's going through. So we do really have to be careful. But I just shared that to encourage anyone out there. If you're trying for a baby and it hasn't happened, or you've had miscarriages, there is hope. There honestly is hope. And if God did it for me, he can do it for you. And I really do believe that I went through those things to make me a stronger person. And when I look back now, I wasn't ready to have kids. I really wasn't ready. And if I didn't have those miscarriages, I wouldn't have Aiden and Mia. And so as much as it was a horrible experience, I'm really, really grateful for it, and it brought me and Morgan closer together as well. And so yeah, that is my testimony of how my journey to motherhood was, and I really do thank God for it. And if you're out there and you're feeling low, I hope this encouraged you. And if you have any questions about anything else similar to this, please feel free to reach out to me. You can follow me on Instagram, you can send me a message, drop me an email, and I definitely will be happy to answer any questions you have. But I hope it wasn't too TMI-ish, and I'm sorry that I got a bit emotional, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care. Bye.